I started with Cork Simon in the mid-70s as a volunteer, and I found a great rapport with the residents in the hostel in John Street. I suppose I had a great kind of a graw for the people in there, you know. In the hostel there was the kitchen, which was an old bar, big long counter. There was copious amounts of toast made, big pots of tea. The focal point in the kitchen was the fire. It was a big open fire, and it was something that was always very inviting. Then you had to start kind of looking for provisions for the dinner, which started at around 4 o'clock. At the time, the hostel was being run on a voluntary basis. It was purely run on donations, you know. So if you didn't go out with your pram the night before or that evening and collect food, you had no dinner that night. You know, you might have got meat and some leftovers from hotels and places. But the English market at the time was not the market it is today. It was where poorer people went to buy their food, and they were very, very sympathetic to Simon. So, you know, bits of meat that were left over, or, you know, if they had stuff over at the end of the day, they always put stuff aside, most of the stall holders. And then the hostel doors opened at 8 o'clock, and at that stage there were people queuing up. Depending on the weather, they were wet, they were cold, they were hungry. Well, and there was a lot of vying and pushing and shoving for the chairs that were around the fire. You made the best you could with whatever was there, and it was big pots of stews and as hearty as you could make it. And then people settled down, there was often singing. And then, I suppose around 1 o'clock, people started to drift away up to their beds. But you'll always have had a few people who'd sit around the fire, and that often was the time that people would tell you their stories and their backgrounds, you know. Then I moved out of Cork, got married. When I retired, I decided I would like to get involved in Simon again, and I thought, you know, is there anything I could bring other than what I had been in the early years? Like, I had worked as a nurse, but I'd done chiropody, and it seemed to be something that a night shelter would be crying out for. So I started doing chiropody once a fortnight in Anderson's Quay. It's great. I go in, the rapport is still there between the residents and the staff. I find on a one-to-one doing feet with people, it's, you know, they're interested in their feet, but in that conversation, in that time, they actually converse. The stories that people have to tell and the lives they've had to lead, you know, you could not judge people for being where they are. And hopefully it helps them, and also they walk with a spring in their step. I feel I'm doing something. I feel they benefit slightly, I benefit hugely, and it's a win-win, as much as it can be.